Welcome to the Epic Company Culture Podcast, where your host, Josh Sweeney, will give you, the business leaders, HR professionals, and company culture aficionados, the knowledge you need to take your company culture to the next level.
Hello, my name is Josh Sweeney, and welcome to the Epic Company Culture Podcast. Thank you for joining me today. Today we are going to talk about how good company culture is now the ante. It's what you have to have in order to even get in the game. So let's highlight what an ante is real quick. So for those of you who are not card players, the concept of an ante is the stake you have to put in to get into the game. If you want to be dealt cards and it's $5 a game, you got to put $5 in to even get the cards dealt to you. So how is this like a good company culture? Well, I'm out visiting amazing companies and have worked for amazing companies I've worked for amazing companies over the years, and I've visited and do visit amazing company cultures and companies on an ongoing basis. With that, what I've noticed is that there is now, the stakes are really just being raised. That's all it comes down to. In order to get the right talent and attract the people that are going to take your company and the company you work for or work with to the next level, you have to have amazing people that are attracted to your amazing company culture. And not only do they have to be attracted to the culture, but the culture has to be strategically done in a way that keeps them on board and retains them. It has to be a place that people want to work. One of the things I highlight in many of my conversations is that we spend 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 hours a day sometimes working, right? And I'm not just saying at your desk for 8 hours plus lunch for an hour. It's getting ready for work, driving to work, coming back from work, as well as those long stints that you do at the office. And in order to keep people, you really have to raise the bar on the retention strategy, and having a good company culture is part of that. So what does this come down to? What's happening in the world that is just making company culture the ante? What is making it where if you don't have a good company culture, you can't compete? Well, the first one is technology companies. Technology organizations are coming on hard and strong with the company culture, right? Amazing budgets, lots of funding. You see places like Google that are going to provide food and drinks and snacks and computer work and, basically whatever you need. They'll pick up your clothes for you in order to make sure that you are not distracted from what needs to be completed throughout the day. So that is definitely one end of the spectrum, right? The Googles, the Facebooks. But it's happening all across America and all across the world. Organizations are strategically adding and injecting amazing culture into the business to make sure that they're hiring the right people. So the first trend that we're seeing is companies. First trend we're seeing is technology companies really coming on strong. And we all know that technology, for the most part, is taking over, right? Every company must turn into a technology company to some degree in order to go into the future. So even if you weren't a technology company yesterday, you're starting to compete with the technology companies of today for talent. Another trend that we're seeing is just the overall generational shift. So as the generation changes over, the baby boomers go into retirement, the way that people work is fundamentally changing. So that's not a good thing or a bad thing. It is just that it is what it is, and it is changing. What do I mean by that? Well, with the generational shift, what we're seeing is that people are more attuned to being flexible about how they work. They want, for example, different work modes. They don't want to go sit in at a desk all day with high cubicles that at the end of the cubicles say, "Quiet please, people at work," right? They want engaging environments. Now that doesn't mean that they're getting any more or less work done. It just means that the work style has to change in order to keep that engagement up. I mentioned work modes real quick, and I'll highlight a few of those items around work modes, and we're actually going to do a podcast on this in the future. But a work mode is the the area that you're working in. How are you working? Are you at a stand-up desk with lots of people? Are you in a Starbucks? Are you in a cubicle with high walls where people keep very quiet? Those are different work modes. And the generational shift is really adding to the number of work modes that must be available. And then lastly is just the overall employment, landscape, I would say. Jobs are getting tighter. There's lots of industries that are really feeling the crunch on the people that are available. For example, developers. There is a huge shortage of developers in the country and across the world because everything's moving towards technology and we need more developers. So when you have a crunch like that on the number of people that are available versus a large number of openings, you're competing on company culture. You have to have strategies and an amazing company culture that is going to pull them in and retain those best people. So, as a recap, what I would like for you to do is think through your company culture and ask yourself, have I met the ante? Have I put enough in to meet the requirements to even compete with the other organizations that are around us? And where you are, where you're located as an organization is going to change that competitive landscape. If you're in Atlanta, Austin, LA, that competitive landscape is going to be a lot more challenging. The ante is going to be higher, right? If you're in suburban America, the ante is going to be a little bit lower, but there still is an ante, right? It's not just about your competition. It's about that generational shift. It's about the employment crunch. So keep those in mind. And just to recap, I would like for you to go in and think about, have you met the ante and what you need to do in order to get in the game.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Epic Company Culture Podcast with Josh Sweeney. If you enjoyed this content, please subscribe on iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. For additional content and transcripts, visit epicculture.co. If you have questions or topics you would like us to address or expand on, tweet us at epicculture1 or email at podcast@epicculture.co.